Alright, it's generally a lot technically earlier than I usually do a video. It's about 6:20 in the morning. But couldn't sleep. Heading back to school today. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. We do have the UFC 138 card coming up, and November 5th, so that's in less than a week. Wanted to get my video out there. Of course, took the last card off, so this is my somewhat return. We'll see what I can do. Preliminary card: Chris Carriasso versus Vaughn Lee. Vaughn Lee's a good fighter from England. He is, I want to say, well, very athletic. His fundamentals sometimes let him down, and I don't think he's that well rounded, which is basically the difference with Carriasso, who is maybe not as athletic, although very athletic. Bantamweights and athleticism tend to go hand in hand, explosiveness, quickness, etc. I see Carriasso being able to use the fact that his toolbox is a little more complete from a wrestling standpoint and a ground standpoint. Not that he's an amazing wrestler or an amazing grappler, but these are just holes I see in Vaughn Lee's game. I think he'll take a unanimous decision here. Maybe a split with the hometown judging and crowd that might tip some things. And it's an exciting fight as well. It's a very exciting fight because these are two fighters who are quite exciting. And as long as Carriasso doesn't go full on wrestler lay and pray, this will be a fun fight. But neither really seem to have that much power when it comes to stopping, like good chins. Chris Cope versus Che Mills. Che Mills reaches second round TKO. Chris Cope's better every time we see him, but the level between the difference between the Chris Cope that fought Chuck O'Neal and Chuck O'Neal himself and Che Mills on the feet is just huge, huge, huge difference. Working on Cope's side is the fact that he is amazingly athletic. I mean, a guy who can go in there training part-time and beat some pretty good fighters. I mean, Chuck O'Neal's not UFC level. Shamar Bailey really isn't, although they seem to be trying to make Shamar Bailey a UFC fighter. But, I mean, these are two very good wins in the grand scheme of things for a guy who trains part-time. That's pretty impressive. He is quite athletic, but I see Che Mills being better on the feet, and Cope has shown no interest and no ability to take a fight to the ground and win it there. So I got Che Mills via second round TKO or knockout possibly. Moving on, Rob Broughton versus Philip DeFries. Philip DeFries is an interesting prospect. He is undefeated. He is big, but somewhat shoddy cardio. Stand-up is grossly unimpressive. And I know people are going to go, well, this is Rob Broughton who just got destroyed by Travis Brown and showed no ability to stop takedowns and so on. I think, for one thing, people forget what a freakish athlete Travis Brown is, for one. How big Travis Brown is, for two. And the fact that Travis Brown is actually a pretty good wrestler who more elects to stand than has to stand. Rob Broughton is better on the feet. Rob Broughton's offensive wrestling, I think, would be enough to get this to the ground. I do somewhat question his takedown defense, but I very much question Philip DeFries' ability to, A, finish Rob Broughton, and 2, have his cardio last the entire fight. And I see Rob Broughton being able to, lose that first round, come out in the second and third round, be the fresher man, and be able to win a decision here. That is my thought. Jason Young versus Michihiro Omagawa. Two fighters who are not the best game planners on the planet. They will fight the other guy's fight. And in this case, I think that Omagawa, who is a good striker, a good wrestler, a good grappler, with a 12-10 record, really should be 13-9 because that Elkins fight was, and I've said this before, that it's one of the most mystifyingly terrible decisions I've ever seen. And I mean, I know someone could say, I don't know what it's like to judge a fight, but I will say this: if you are a professional judge and you can't get that fight right, you shouldn't be judging. And that's just kind of all there is to it on that matter. That's all I have to say on it. As for this fight, Omagawa has all the tools to win, but he tends to fight the other guy's fight, and he tends to like to stand. And I think Young particularly from a kickboxing standpoint. While Omigawa might be the better boxer, I think Young is more explosive, faster, and has the better kickboxing game, incorporates the knees and the kicks much better. And I see him taking a decision here. I think another thing on his side is the hometown crowd will react, I think, a lot more to his shots than they will to Omigawa's. And we've seen Omigawa in the Elkins fight, for example, lose a controversial decision. And unfortunately, I'm going to say that it might happen again, although not to the same extent, because I do believe Young will win this fight, but I do believe it will be close. But Jason Young will be a unanimous decision. John McGuire versus Justin Edwards. If you watch Kaz's video, aka the British dude, he surprisingly not picked Justin Edwards. I'm going to surprise people by going the other way on this one. And that is, I've seen John McGuire. I've seen Justin Edwards. Justin Edwards, of course, fought on the Ultimate Fighter Lesnar versus Junior Dos Santos season. He looked pretty good in a fight against Tony Ferguson. The problem here is that his subsequent fights have, and let's see, I'll get you who they were against. I believe, let's see here, Justin Edwards. There you are. Sorry, it's taking a little longer than it should. I should have had this up. But did not look very good against George Lopez, and barely lost to Clay Harvinson, but it's Clay Harvinson. Clay Harvinson's not a UFC level fighter, frankly, and that's all there is to it. Edwards' problem is, and I like the guy. He's well-rounded, seems to have a good attitude about things, good cardio, which is something that I cannot emphasize enough. I don't understand how fighters have bad cardio at times. I don't get it. It's the one thing that you, as a person, can always control, is that you are in shape. You can't help it if the other guy is necessarily more skilled. Not quite right, but I mean, it takes time and serious effort and so on to get your skills to a level. I understand that. But the lack of cardio some fighters display is something that I am confused by repetitively. Edwards' cardio is pretty good. He's a good wrestler, but he's not that good of a wrestler. John McGuire hasn't necessarily beaten better wrestlers, but he seems to be, reasonably suited to it. He seems to have the grappling game down, and again, a little bit of hometown advantage. I'm going with John McGuire split decision. I think this will be a close fight, but I think he can do it. I think that his stand-up is better than Justin Edwards', and I think that his grappling is better than Justin Edwards'. Anthony Prosh, Cyril Diabate. Cyril Diabate all day. Prosh is not a UFC level fighter. I've said it every time he's come in. He's got a decent record, but it's over other guys who I'm somewhat mystified as to how they got their UFC chances, like, and I'm going to get crap from this from British fans, Tom Blackledge. And also, that's it, actually. That's his only win in the UFC. Wow. Damn. Lost to Crow Cop, made Crow Cop look good, which no one's done since Eddie Sanchez. Christian Wellish and Jeff Munson. Yeah, no way. Diabate, second round, TKO. Prosh's wrestling's not that good. He's a reasonably good BJJ guy, but he's just terrible on the feet. His wrestling's not good enough, and Diabate is. He might get Diabate down in the first round, but Diabate, he's been working on his wrestling with Dan Henderson, the boys at Temecula, and he should be ready for this fight, and he does have very, very good stand-up. On to the main card, Paul Taylor versus Anthony Njokuani. Taking Njokuani by unanimous decision. I think that he's more well-rounded, more athletic, more explosive, and a bit better on the feet. Problem is that he finds ways to lose fights, and that makes him very difficult to pick. That being said, I have to pick him over Paul Taylor here, but be warned that this is an upset alert, basically, that Njokuani can throw this away. There's someone else who was going on about how this was some massive mismatch, a la Strike Forces, and I'm like, it really isn't. It really isn't. This is an entertaining fight. This is a very entertaining fight, and it's a very winnable fight for Paul Taylor because of what I stated. Njokuani finds ways to lose fights. Then we go to Terry Edom, Edward Filoto. Terry Edom is not really the greatest power puncher or finisher. That being said, Filoto, I don't understand what his skills are supposed to be honest. And maybe I'm missing some massive pedigree that comes from outside of MMA, but I've only seen him fight MMA. So if you know what he's supposed to be, hit me up. But yeah, he won 2 fights outside the UFC and then got destroyed by Nojikwani and destroyed by Michael Johnson. I'm taking Edom by a second round TKO. A sub would be possible. Edom has good subs, very good subs for a guy whose base is boxing, I believe. But he's got reach. He's got better stand up. He should win this fight easily. He may end up going to a decision just because he's not the greatest finisher, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Go second round TKO. Thiago Alves versus Papi Betty. Papi Betty being thrown kind of in the deep end here. I am excited for his debut, though. He's a well-rounded fighter, undefeated, and I think he loses the decision here. I think this kind of looks a lot like a more competitive version of the John Howard-Thiago Alves fight. And the fact that I think Betty is better than Howard at everything. My views on John Howard are not a secret. I do not think he is at all talented, as oddly as that seems. I don't understand how a guy who supposedly is, a decorated grappler can get his arms trapped under people as much as he does. I'm ranting, but anyways, back on topic. Papi Betty, good judo guy, good stand-up. Cardio, however, is a question mark, even more so than it is with Alves. If Alves makes the weight without incident, looks good at the weigh-ins and so on, I think Alves can outwork him, outstrike him just a bit. Control the clinch just a bit, because again, he is actually quite hard to take down from the clinch, unless your name is John Fitch, but or GSP. And I think he wins this by unanimous decision. But I think this is again another good fight. There's no dull fights on this card, and I love that. Brad Pickett versus, although Edward Filato is on the main card, that I'm not keen on. Henan Barrow versus Brad Pickett. Henan Barrow, I'm taking by second round tap out. He has the reputation as a can opener, and it's true. I mean, his wins are not over the greatest of competition. He's fought in the alleyways, effectively, of Brazil a lot. He's 26-1, hasn't lost since his debut, but he's coming in here and he's done in Anthony Leon, he's done in Chris Carriazo, Cole Escobedo. Escobedo did make a decision, but Escobedo is quite a good grappler. Brad Pickett has been caught in the past, if you watch things like the Takaro fight. And I see something similar kind of happening here. While Brad Pickett does actually have very good offensive wrestling, it doesn't seem to really translate into the defensive side of things. And that's where I think I think Barrow can take him down. Pickett's a better striker, I think, but I think he can take him down and eventually get the tap, because I think his mindset will be to get the tap, whereas it might sometimes be to go to decision. But with the judging, Brazilians particularly know about hometown judging because they get it a lot in Brazil, and they kind of suspect everyone else to do it. So I think he finishes this fight. Mark Munoz, Chris Lieben. There are two very contrasting fights here to base this off for Lieben. One is the Jake Rosholt fight, where he managed to keep it standing because Rosholt seemed to want to stand with him. And Rosholt's stand-up is not very good, and he wound up submitting him. And he hurt him fairly bad, but again, that's because Rosholt has no boxing defense. And the Aaron Simpson fight, which ironically he won, survived the wrestling, knocked out Simpson. The key here with Munoz is, I think he has a better chin than both of those fighters. I think he's a better wrestler than both of those fighters. Not as explosive as Rosholt, but technically better. And I think he's able to follow through with a game plan a lot better than Rosholt, for sure. And he has the stand-up to survive that Simpson at the time didn't have. Simpson has been improving his stand-up in leaps and bounds, and I'm very impressed with him. But Simpson, he engages in just blasting matches with people. Back in the day, he seems to be much better with his head movement now. And Munoz does the same, but Munoz packs a lot more power than Simpson, I think. And, I mean, if this were a couple years ago when Lieben had that rock-solid chin that was unbreakable, I would probably take this going to the distance. But I think Munoz finishes him in the second round this time around. TKO via punches, probably from ground and pound. That's my thoughts on the card. Have a good one.